Hello! We're going to show you how to install multi-piece vinyl decals using registration marks. First, clean your wall using a water-dampened cloth. For dirty or greasy walls, you can also add some rubbing alcohol to your dampened cloth. Afterwards, thoroughly dry the wall with the dry cloth. Next, grab your tools. You'll need some masking tape, a tape measure, scissors, and a squeegee, or something else hard and flat like a spatula or credit card. Many of our multi-piece decals have dotted lines to show you where to cut. Cut along the dotted lines if they're on your decal, and, as with every one of our decals, you'll cut off the border around the outside edge of the decal sheet. Once you have all your vinyl pieces cut out, you're ready to go. Place a small piece of masking tape on the top right and left corners of the largest section of your decal. Use those strips of masking tape to stick the decal piece to your wall approximately where you'd like it to go. We want this mermaid to lay sideways, so we're going to tilt this decal piece to the side. If the decal you're installing needs to be straight, you can use the top or bottom edge to get the decal level. You can use a laser level or just measure from each corner to the ceiling or baseboards with a measuring tape to level the decal. Place strips of masking tape to the top corners of the other decal pieces. As you tape them up on the wall, you'll match up the corresponding stars on the decal pieces to correctly align each piece. They don't have to match up perfectly just yet. This is just to see approximately where you want your decal to be placed on the wall. You can adjust these pieces and move them around until you get the decal exactly where you want it. That looks perfect. Now let's apply it. Start with the largest piece. Place a long strip of masking tape along the entire bottom edge of that piece. This will act as a hinge to keep the decal in place while you remove the backing paper. Remove the tape on the top edges of the decal so it can flip down along that bottom hinge. While making sure the hinge of tape is keeping the decal on your wall, carefully peel off the backing paper to expose the sticky side of the back of the vinyl decal. Try to peel the paper back at a sharp angle and apply some pressure by pushing slightly against the wall as you roll off the backing paper. If you encounter a piece of the decal that doesn't want to come off the backing paper, apply pressure to that area of the paper to force the decal to flick back down onto the transfer tape. Once you've removed the backing paper, be sure to not let the remaining sticky transfer tape fold back on itself. If it sticks to itself, it'll be very difficult to peel back off itself and might ruin your decal. Grab the bottom corners of the sticky transfer tape and flip it back up onto the wall. Pull tight enough so the paper doesn't bend or bow in the middle, but not so hard that the masking tape pulls off the wall. Swipe over the decal by hand from the middle outward, pressing it into the wall. Now use your squeegee to rub the decal deeper into the texture of the wall. For tightly textured walls, we recommend wrapping a cloth around the squeegee beforehand, which we'll show you in a moment. Now you'll peel off the transfer tape. In order to make sure the decal doesn't rip, you can tear the transfer tape into small sections as you peel it off. Rather than pulling the transfer tape away from the decal at a 90-degree angle, push the transfer tape back against itself as you remove it. Try to keep your fingers pressing against and rolling off the transfer tape right along the edge where the tape is detaching from the decal. If you encounter parts of the decal that don't want to stick to the wall, press the transfer tape back over that piece and firmly press your fingers against that precise area as you push and roll off the transfer tape. If it's still having a hard time, you can press that piece against the wall with one hand as you pull off the transfer tape with your other hand. Don't get discouraged if you have pieces that are difficult to transfer to the wall. The vinyl will stick to the wall, you just have to be careful and patient. Wrapping a cloth around the squeegee before rubbing over the transfer tape helps push the decal deeper into the texture of the wall, rather than just to the topmost parts of the wall texture. Continue carefully removing the transfer tape from the first piece of your decal. Once that piece is installed, you'll line up the next piece of your decal using the star-shaped registration marks. Rip off small pieces of the backing paper to expose the sticky backside of the stars. This will allow you to see through the transfer tape to the stars already stuck to the wall to accurately see how to line the stars up. Now, get the sticky side of the back of the stars wet. We use spit because we're lazy and disgusting, but you can use water like a normal person. It works just as well. This will ensure that the stars don't accidentally stick prematurely to the stars on the wall, which could move the wall stars and make lining up this piece difficult. Try to overlap the stars as perfectly as you can. Once the stars are in place, keep the decal piece in that exact position by sticking it to the wall with the pieces of masking tape. Once in place, apply a long piece of masking tape along the entire bottom edge of that piece, just as you did with the first piece. Repeat the steps you followed to install the first piece to finish installing this piece and all of the following decal pieces. Lining up the stars as precisely as you can will ensure a smooth connection along the overlapped areas. If you remove all the transfer tape and notice that some parts didn't line up as well as you'd like them to, you can take a needle and peel up the overlapping piece of vinyl, then smooth it back down by hand in place to line up that overlap perfectly. Or you can use a razor to trim the uneven parts of the overlap. We'll show you how to use these methods later in this video. Once the entire decal has been installed, you can remove the registration mark stars. And you're done. That looks pretty freaking neat. Now let's try installing a huge decal with like a billion different pieces. This decal set comes in 3 large pieces, but one of the pieces has dotted lines to show you where to cut it apart into smaller pieces. Notice that each registration star has a letter drawn on it to help you see how to combine all the pieces. Cut along the dotted lines, as well as around the edges of the 3 large decal pieces to remove the protective border from the decal sheets. Place strips of masking tape along the top corners of each piece, including the 2 large decal sheets. Starting with the biggest pieces, place each decal piece on the wall approximately where you'd like them to be using the pieces of masking tape. You can arrange and rearrange these pieces as much as you'd like until you get the whole decal set exactly where you want it to go. The stars don't have to match up perfectly just yet. This is just to see approximately where you want your decal to be placed on the wall. Once you have everything taped up in place, if you want the design to be level, you can now either use a laser level along the top and bottom edges of the main decal pieces, or just measure from each corner of the main pieces to the ceilings or baseboards to ensure that they are level. You will now install each piece, starting with the biggest pieces, just as we had done with the mermaid decal in the beginning of this video. To summarize, the process of installing each piece is as follows. Tape along the full bottom length of the decal piece to hold it in place. Remove the tape from the top corners and let the decal sheet flip down along the bottom hinged tape so the grid paper is now facing you. Carefully roll off the backing paper while ensuring that you don't accidentally pull the masking tape hinge from the wall. Grab both corners of the transfer tape, pull taut, then swing it up along the taped hinge so the sticky side of the vinyl meets the wall. Rub both top corners against the wall, then, with your hands, smooth up and out from the middle of the decal to affix the decal in place. Rub over the decal with your squeegee to adhere the vinyl to the wall texture. For tightly textured walls, we recommend wrapping a cloth around your squeegee tool before rubbing over the transfer tape to help rub the decal deeper into the texture of the wall. Remove the transfer tape by tearing it into strips and pushing it against itself as you roll it off of the decal. Try to keep your fingers pressing against and rolling off the transfer tape right along the edge where the tape is detaching from the decal. Once the first piece is installed, use the star-shaped registration marks to line up the next piece. Rip off small pieces of the backing paper to expose the sticky backside of the stars. This will allow you to see through the transfer tape to the stars already stuck to the wall to accurately see how to line the stars up. Wet the sticky side of the back of the stars to ensure that the stars don't accidentally stick prematurely to the stars on the wall. Try to overlap the stars as perfectly as you can. Once the stars are in place, keep the decal piece in that exact position by sticking it to the wall with the pieces of masking tape. Once in place, apply a long piece of masking tape along the entire bottom edge of that piece, just as you did with the first piece. Once you've got the hang of it, you should be able to install the small pieces a quicker way. To install the points at the bottom of the mountains, notice that we don't use the masking tape hinge method. You can just remove the entire backing paper from that little piece, wet the back of the stars, and as you match up the stars, you can just rub the decal piece on the wall with your hand. Rub over that piece with your squeegee, then remove the transfer tape. Once your entire design is stuck to the wall, you can remove the stars you used to line up the decal pieces. If you notice that some parts didn't line up as well as you'd like them to, you can use a razor to trim the uneven parts of the overlap. Or, you can peel up the overlapping piece of vinyl using your fingernails or a needle-shaped tool, then smooth it back down by hand in place to correctly align the overlap. Don't stress too much about the overlaps not lining up perfectly. The overall look of the multi-piece decals aren't diminished by the overlapped pieces, and you likely won't even be able to tell there's an overlap unless you look very closely. And you're done! That looks great. It's awesome. You're awesome. For other install videos, check out our YouTube channel or our Facebook page.